Lawmakers and state leaders have expressed their concern for former President Donald Trump following Saturday's shooting at the rally he was holding there in Pennsylvania.
Right now, we're being joined on the phone by House Majority Leader and Louisiana Congressman Steve Scalise. I've heard a lot. You've been on a number of shows over the weekend expressing your shock about this and dismay. The one thing that it does seem like this, if anything good can come out of this, is it is seeming to bring the temperature down in this campaign so far. We saw the words from President Biden last night. President Trump says he's rewritten his convention speech.
Yeah, Eric, and good morning. Good to be with you. President Trump, it seems like, is going to have a different tone in what he's going to be saying Thursday night in Milwaukee. President Biden has given a number of addresses talking about also the need, and I think it's important for everybody to bring the tone down. It's been very ratcheted up. A lot of very personal kind of attacks through this. Let's get back to the issues and just talk about the differences. We have big differences in our country, and there's nothing wrong with talking about that, but there's no need to demonize the person on the other side that disagrees with you. And all it takes is one person hearing that the wrong way to go and act on it. And that's surely something, we don't know if that's what happened in this case, but I know that's what happened in the shooting in 2017. And, the hypercharged rhetoric doesn't serve anybody well.
And you're referring to the time when you were shot at that baseball field in Washington.
Yeah.
Steve, good morning. Brianna Boudreau, thanks again for taking the time to speak with us. I know you've got a lot going on this week. Can we elaborate more on that? Because I just want to say, from someone who has experienced this type of violence firsthand from your end, you spoke with Trump following this incident. What did it feel like for you watching the playback from that rally, and, what were your immediate thoughts following?
Yeah, it brought back a lot of emotions, a lot of memories from the day of the shooting in 2017. I mean, I heard the pop, and it's all so surreal. You're not expecting a shooter to be on a ball field. I'm sure the people at the rally were not expecting a gunman. You go through magnometers to be at a Trump rally. I was just with President Trump in Wisconsin a few weeks ago at a rally in Racine, and at an outdoor event similar to the one we saw Saturday. And everybody in the event had to go through a magnometer, but then you have an outside perimeter and you expect it to be locked down. And clearly the outside perimeter was not locked down. That's some of the questions we have. But, the initial thoughts I had were, just the emotions, but also a concern for President Trump. I mean, I saw him go down. I didn't initially know what had happened. And even when they took him off, you don't really know, because if you go back to the Reagan shooting, Reagan initially was given some positive signs that everything was okay. And then once they got him into the car and brought him to the hospital, they realized he had another wound that nobody realized, and it was much worse, and it was almost life-threatening. And, look, I know when I was hit, my system kind of shut down. So your system doesn't really know how serious it is. I mean, I ended up being in a coma for 3 days fighting for my life. And yet at the moment I was hit, I was very cognizant and aware of what was going on, and I didn't feel the kind of pain you would think you would feel.
Yeah.
So your system does trick you a little bit. So, I didn't know at the time, even though Trump looked fine, I didn't know if he was okay, because until you get him to a hospital to check him out, and then later on I found out he was okay, and we texted back and forth. But, it's just a lot of those emotions. And then, when I heard the word "shoot her down," that was exactly what they said on the ball field in 2017, shoot her down. And that's when people were able to come to me, and, and there was a much louder shoot, over 100 rounds in a shootout on the ball field. This was over very quickly. But it just, again, a lot of memories come back, and there's a lot of questions. I mean, we're going to have a hearing on this Monday in the Oversight Committee. I've talked to the chairman of the Oversight and the Homeland Security Committee about some of the real questions we've got, and I think a lot of Americans have, that we need to get answered.
And Steve, I'm sure you felt this way, and I know former President Trump is probably feeling the same way. When you come to a near miss that could be fatal, I mean, a lot of things just become more important to you. Your kids, your life, your future, etc.
Yeah, it really crystallizes what's important in life. I mean, I have a great family. I'm very blessed, but when you go through a life-threatening experience like that, it really puts it into perspective, just what's important in life. And we all have things. I mean, I love my job, and it's an honor to represent Southeast Louisiana in Congress, but that's not what defines me. And that is, it really put it into perspective. And maybe I'm sure President Trump had some of that perspective on Saturday, because you saw the video of the bullet in the shot. I mean, he literally was a centimeter away from not being with us.
Oh, yeah.
That's how close it was. And, and I'm sure for anybody going through something like that, it's going to have an impact on you some way or another. I thought Melania Trump's comments, for anyone who read them Sunday that came out, were incredibly poignant. And I've gotten to know Melania over the years. A lot of people don't, because she's a very private person. But I thought that was something important for anybody to go back and read what she said, to try to humanize President Trump. And, she talked about the kind of husband he is and the kind of person that he is, and, how much she loves him. And I don't think people see that side enough, that, it's easy to demonize a person when they don't really know the person. But, we're all humans. We all have families. We all have people who care for us, and we care for people. And, hopefully that changes some of that rhetoric too.
I just have one last question for you, Steve. When we're looking ahead now, obviously the convention starts this week, where you all will be, or it starts today. We've heard from Secret Service, who says that they're not changing anything about security plans, that they're happy with what they've already put in place moving forward. Is there any concern from yourself or any of your other colleagues that you're hearing from about security concerns heading into this week?
Yeah, I thought that was a little tone deaf when they said that. I and others have expressed concern about especially the outer perimeter issues that have been raised. And I think they're revisiting that, and they should revisit that for all the people that will be participating. I mean, a convention, we hosted one in 1988. There's a lot of, celebratory things that go along with it, but there's very formal things. I mean, you have to have the formal convention to nominate your candidate for president, both on the Republican Democrat side. And so there are very official functions that need to happen for the ability for us to have an election November 5th. And so it's very serious that it goes forward.
Quickly, Steve, since the president has changed the tenor of his speech, do you think others will? Have you changed the tenor of yours?
I made some minor changes to my speech. Mine was pretty much a contrast speech that I'm giving Tuesday night, kind of talking about issues, sticking with issues, and I make a little bit of a reference more to the personal side of Donald Trump at the end of my speech that I added in Saturday. But Tuesday night I'll be speaking about, just what's at stake in the election as it relates to issues, and sticking with those issues.
All right, Congressman Steve Scalise, House Majority Leader, thank you very much for talking with us today. Because I know not only is former President Trump the leader of your party, but I mean he's your friend.
We've been friends. He came to the hospital the night of my shooting. We stay in touch on a regular basis, and and he's a human being who has a lot of concern about people. But I'm glad he's doing well, and his spirits are really up right now. And the prayers. Look, the prayers really do matter. So I know a lot of people have been praying. You don't have to like a person or vote for a person to pray for him. It mattered to me. People prayed for me that knew me, that didn't know me, that meant a lot.
All right, and that's the way to close it. Thank you very much.
Hey, God bless y'all.
Thank you.